Following out.
Welcome to episode 34 of the Randy Wilson podcast. We are here today with none other than the Virginia famous CheatsMovement. I have Gigi Broadway and Marc Cheatham. How are you guys doing?
Hey, what's good?
Good, Randy. It's been a pleasure.
Super excited to have you guys. Marc, I thought about it before starting with like ladies and gentlemen. I thought about it. I was going to ladies and gentlemen it out, but I said, I'm not going to do that. But it's great to have you guys on here.
You should have.
Episode 34, quarantine season. I'm super excited to have you guys on the show, and this was not my preferred way of doing it, so this is just part one, okay? This is part one, because when we get the chance to get back to the new normal, obviously we'll talk about we'll get together and do some things in the same physical space. But for all of you who are not familiar with the CheatsMovement is really, from my perspective, the Richmond, Virginia, at minimum, pioneers when it comes to podcasts. And even though they've only been podcasting for about 5 years, when it comes to hip hop culture and community, they are the first ones to do it at a level that it's been done. And it's been a significant inspiration to me personally in regard to wanting to engage in this culture. So I'm just super excited for you guys. Like Noriega does with the Drink Champs, I want to make sure that you guys get your flowers, make sure that people recognize like you are always the people who are putting people in a position to have a platform and speak. And so I'm just happy to be able to endorse you guys and speak on your behalf and to engage with you all today and have some conversation. So thank you all for being a part of the show.
Too kind, Randy.
That's for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the CheatsMovement podcast. First off, and for those who are listening who may not be familiar, can you all kind of give us a little bit of history on that? I'll start with you, Gigi.
Well, this is Cheats' brainchild. I'm just enjoying the ride,
I was just trying to be appropriate, respectful, and ladies first here.
Ladies first.
Yeah, you're not just a sidekick, Gigi. I mean, you're a pretty vital part of the show. If anything, as a fan of your show and sit back and observing, the dynamic that you guys have is impeccable. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And just from my own experiences and trying to figure out how to blend with people, I think what you all have is very special. So definitely don't diminish your side of the thing here. We couldn't have a CheatsMovement podcast conversation without Gigi Broadway.
Man,
I gotta think though.
It's crazy.
Were you you weren't on the first one. You were at the first one.
That's what I'm saying. I was at the first one, but I started as a photographer, and
right.
it was just so surreal. The energy was crazy. I mean, and I'm a big energy person, and it's just, I walked in and like, it was just some guys there that were like the coolest guys, kicking back, just talking passionately about hip hop, about the community. And it was just such a dope vibe and, amazing conversation. And like,
So just to go back to the beginning. So you can't have a CheatsMovement podcast conversation without kind of laying out kind of how it was created and who was there in the beginning. And the beginning, so me and Hip Hop Henry were the ones that really started the CheatsMovement podcast because I had gone to their show. Gigi, were you on the listening party? Had you gone to the listening party before?
I've heard it, but I didn't go in person yet.
Okay. So I went to the listening party because the blog started before the podcast. And I went to Hip Hop Henry, KB, our prod, the plumber, DJ Ron P. They had a radio show. So it was an internet radio show. So before podcasts really popped off in Richmond, a lot of folks had those internet radio shows, and they still do to an extent. But I went to their internet radio show, and Bryce was there.
Oh yeah.
and I saw what they were doing kind of in that show, and that show was created. I want to say more. Our prod and those guys was really running that show, and hip hop was there, and I was there, and we all just were arguing about hip hop and hitting it off. And I think it was hip hop that was like, "Yo, we should do our own joint." And I'm an ideas guy, but oftentimes I have to have someone to really be like, "Yo, let's do this," because once you start getting the reputation as being an ideas person, there's a lot of people that throw ideas at you. But the problem is you really got to have people that follow through with those ideas. And Hip Hop Henry was the guy that was like, yo, we could really do this. We should really do this. And somehow, I think episode 1, which is still online, was me and Hip Hop. KB was there for sure. RT was there because RT, we pulled a bunch of writers. It was weird. We pulled 2 writers that wasn't even around. Now we pulled like 2 or 3 different writers. So I think Hip Hop, myself, KB, and it was like I can't remember the names, but it was 2 other, and that's not a knock. It's just they were really good writers. There's 2 other writers that wanted to be on the show, and our first guests were, I want to say Flying came. You came, Gigi, with Concept, right?
Yeah.
Concept, Joey Gallo. But when we did it, we knew right away that we had something. Hip Hop Henry, myself, and the group knew we had something that people were really going to respond to. And then it was just over the course of the next couple of episodes, figuring out what voices made it work. And those voices turned out to be kind of what you knew as the larger group, where it was like KB came, Big Rich came, Gigi came, and it just really kind of molded into probably, I think by episode 6, 7, 8, we really had our core group of who was going to be there. We might have added and dropped later than that, but it really started. I give a lot of credit to Hip Hop Henry in the way that the show started. And that energy, Gigi's right about that energy. Our first guest on that pod, like the hip hop podcast is different from the podcast we do now. But our first year of that hip hop podcast, I think it was episode 4, was a big difference for us. And episode 4 was the AGM takeover, where we had Nicholas F., Michael Millions, Radio B, name all come to over coast where we were recording it. And so and it just kind of changed the trajectory of the show, and those were fun times. It was different. It's a different show. We talk about different things now, but those first year and a half, 2 years of just being a straight hip hop show was different. It was good. It was great.
So the podcast has been alive for 5 years. The blog has been going for almost 10 years. You guys have definitely shown longevity. You've been consistent. You've maintained significant relevance. What is it with the dynamic between you 2 individuals that has really made this thing pop at this point in this transition? Hearing that Gigi came in as a initial photographer, to now evolving and being a voice, and you guys being partners.
I'm gonna let Gigi take that.
I don't know, because I'm still, I'm still questioning that myself. I mean, because I'm such an Cheese doesn't like when I call myself an introvert, because he doesn't allow me to be one. But my deep down, I'm definitely an introvert. I'm low key. I'm an empath. So energy, if it's too busy, the energy sometimes is too much for me. So I had to learn how to deal. But it's, I feed off of energy. I feed off of authenticity and passion. And Cheese is just such a good guy, and he's selfless, and it's just, you can't deny that he truly wants to help people harvest their creativity, and he really wants to help the community. And he's,
Depends on who you ask. I'm sorry, me and Reed, we were just talking about this. Depends on who you ask. But go ahead. Continue on, Gigi.
But no, I mean, it's just we're like a yin and yang. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm spicy. I can go off at a drop of a dime, and I have all these outlandish thoughts and this energy. And Sheets is very, very, methodical. He's very cerebral. He thinks. He's very strategic in, what he has to say in regards to, his career and things like that as well. So I think we're an even balance, or the perfect yin and yang. We're total opposites, but we we come together when it matters, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think, look, regardless of what you all think it is, from observation on the outside looking in, it's phenomenal, the balance of compatibility. Because I know when I first started this podcast thing, I got together with a group of friends in my basement. There's 4 of us. And nobody, at the end of the day, everyone had a desire or motivation to do something. But when it came to scheduling or commitment and time and engagement, everyone didn't have the same level. And so what I said to them, I was like, look, trying to build a team over time, that'll happen. And what I've been successful with in building a team on the opposite side of the camera, like having people to work with, I've been good with that. But when it comes to like having people like you, what you guys got on camera or on the microphone, hadn't found that balance yet. You know, honestly, I'm done looking for it. I'm just gonna be a solo act, and I'm fine with that. but I think that's special about what you guys have, because I mean, it just flows. It's special, and it was an inspiration for me. Cheats knows we've had some side conversation about it. It was an inspiration for me when I saw that flow, and that's not easy to.
But I think we'll be the first to tell you that teams are hard, right?
Teams are what?
Teams are hard. Building people to support a vision is difficult, and they have a shelf life in that sense. And that's why even some of the best teams have to retool players, and this person leaves and this person does another thing. And I think you mentioned off air that we talk about kind of highs and lows. I think one of the most difficult kind of periods for our show and what we were doing is when we all decided, I wouldn't say all, but the majority of us decided that it was time to go in a different direction and it was going to look different. And we had 8 dedicated people that were like, quote unquote, like CheatsMovement, like 8 people that was repping something that we all built together. And we had to make a decision that everybody's going to do different things. And 8 went to, for us in the show, 8 went to 2. Literally, like 8, 9 went to 2. And it was a decision that I think I would say the majority of the team at the time was comfortable with, because they saw it. Like, we talk about that first year being so great. We had a second year. And I want to say the last 4 or 5 months of year 2 was some of the most difficult kind of for relationship parts of that, was really difficult. And so we had to make decisions whether we were going to keep our family okay. And because it was like all 8 of us, 9 of us were like family. Mm-hmm. And we were like, yo, we're going to keep our family okay, or are we going to keep doing this show? Because if we kept doing the show the way we were doing it at the end of year 2, none of us would be here.
Gotcha.
So it was like, or none of us would be talking. None of us would have been happy. So we had to make some difficult decisions. And I say all that just to tell you that the part about building teams, maintaining teams, and all of that stuff is some of the most difficult decisions, building teams you're ever going to make in any kind of creative project you do.
Yeah, we see it in everything. We see it. We see it in the modern day NBA. We see it in the White House. You see it in families. I mean, there's always some level of adjusting that has to take place. And so, but you guys I feel like you guys have definitely figured out in 2020, definitely what's making it work for you two guys. So let me ask you a question. As journalists, it's your job to present information. Can you share with us some experiences on the highs and lows of your careers in this lane, and particularly because I want to kind of focus this toward podcasters or media people, period, so they can potentially learn from some of your experiences, highs and lows, great moments and maybe low moments too but in the low moments, what you learn from those moments.
Broadway? What would you say is the outside of you?
I think y'all got a lot of high moments. Start with the highs.
I would say outside of you physically accosting AZ in the back of the Broadway.
You know that was my high of high moments there. Like,
did you like Joe? Did you like Joe Budden? You guys spend some time with Joe Budden?
oh my God, you know that was my next favorite.
Okay. We had some good ones. Go ahead.
Amazing.
The AZ
you know,
one has to be high.
The high is AZ. Me for a personal, right? But you know what really was crazy was the FA.
Yeah, the VMFA. Yeah, the hot sauce at the VMFA.
It was, I mean, the crowd and the diversity and how we like brought everybody together, and like you could tell that some of those people had never like experienced anything like that. And I just met so many different people. I think that was actually probably top 3 high moments for me too.
So the VMFA, AZ.
We hosted AZ at the Broadway. We've hosted Joe Budden at the Broadway. Odyssey.
What was Joe Budden's like?
Very cool that day.
Yeah.
No, the thing about Budden is you hear like you could catch him on a good day or you catch him on a bad day. We caught him on a great day.
Yeah. He was very demure though, very like laid back, low key.
But he met every fan, all those VIP fans and all of that. He met every fan. He talked to us, got very comfortable, very good attitude at the time. Like the time we saw him, he was great.
Yeah, and we got to present a rap battle to him, which was like.
He said he wasn't going to watch, and he wound up watching. Remember that?
Every single bar. Yep.
Wow.
So, so Gigi knows this about me, and she laughs about it all the time. I always say that completion is success. So whenever we have ideas or projects, I don't really care if it's good. I just care if it gets done. And so, because Gigi will be like, yo, we're not going to do this. It's not going to come out good. And I'll be like, yo, let's just do it. Because if nobody else has done it and we're going to do it, completion is like success. Let's just complete the task. And then we'll see if we like it or how it's received or whatever. And so I think being able to pull off the things that we've done, through the course of the podcast and pull off, I think the way that we've been able to continue to grow in like our ideas. So it's not necessarily like we're growing in audience members or plays or sponsors and all that. All of that stuff comes, but we're able to pull off our ideas when we say, hey man, I don't know what possible idea we could think of next. If we're going to host a festival or we're going to host this show, or who do we want to come to Richmond? Who can we bring to Richmond and have a feel good? And I think we get so excited about just kind of being able to pull off things in Richmond that are considered kind of first or new, or doing things that hadn't been done before, really gets us excited. At the time we did hip hop at the time we did hip hop at Hardywood, they never had a hip hop show at Hardywood. And now we see now that hip hop was accepted at Hardywood, and Kelly Lemons had a wonderful running festival that goes there. But at the time the CheatsMovement did hip hop at Hardywood, we were the very first acts to do hip hop.
Gotcha.
At the VMFA, the way that we did hip hop at the VMFA with Michael Millions and Name Brand and Z-Bay the Poet and Dev Rock and DJ Mentos, no one had done hip hop, Black History Month or anything else. No one had done hip hop at the VMFA like we did hip hop. So the fact that we were able to pull these epic kind of nights off, all based off of what we built between the podcast and the shows and the blog and all that, and putting people on stage. Some of the shows we did at Gallery 5, when we would put people on stage at Gallery 5 that had never been on stage before, that had never met each other before, and we would put them on stage and have them do one of our shows. And then that, like I said, the years, especially years 1 and 2, we had epic freestyles at the end of all those episodes with people that may not have rocked with each other, may not have rhymed with each other. J Slim and Lucid and J Slim did one where they weren't even really supposed to rhyme. and they heard each other rhyming, and they were like, "Yo, I got to go back in. I got to go back in. I got to go back in."
Mm-hmm.
And that was Jay Slim and Lucid. I don't even know if Kane was there that day too. Kane, I think, might have been there that day too. Those were in the dark. Those were in the dark days.
Yeah.
Remember the fans studio. Those were the dark days.
Yeah.
But we just being able. I think a lot of the highs were just being able to have ideas, really execute those ideas in a way that I think we represented well for ourselves, but also for the city of Richmond. And just we were able to do a bunch of creative stuff. And I think we'll still be able to do creative stuff, whenever we get out of this teen.
Hey guys, continue to do creative things. You still can continue to create even in this situation. I feel like that's a challenge that we're faced with right now. How can we create? You're on hiatus. You're enjoying this, Seats.
We're on hiatus. This actually comes at a good time for us. I think we needed a break anyway.
Yeah.
What's under that hat, Cheats?
What's that?
What's under that hat?
Unsafe Grays, Negro League.
He's on a hiatus right now. He's like completely in hiatus stage right now.
Yeah, we're on hiatus.
Gigi's hair was good.
I'm okay with it.
Gigi, you went to a hairdresser, it looks like. Whose garage you been in?
No, let me tell you, I actually got my hair done the day before stuff got crazy. So I got stuck with good quarantine hair. Thank you.
She got that good hair. Okay. She got that good hair. That's why it's just holding up. Okay.
The quarantine hair, yeah.
She done been in somebody's garage. Somebody out there is doing hair right now, and we're going to find out who you are, but we'll move on. But let's switch topics a little bit because we only got like 19 minutes. I want to switch up a little bit. But before we do, I think from the low standpoint, I think you explained it in the beginning, just the whole process of developing and learning how to build a team. I guess I'm sure through those moments there was.
I'm interested to hear what Gigi has to say. Gigi, what's your low point of the 5 years?
I really don't have a low point. No, that time I got super drunk at the studio, but we're not gonna relive that. But
that's funny. That was not a low point though, but that did happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's the lowest point I got, man. I mean, everything, it's been an amazing ride. I have no low point outside of that. So
that's funny.
Alcohol can definitely be a downer. It can bring you down.
Yeah, it's bittersweet.
Hey, so I definitely want to have this conversation because I feel like if we take five minutes or so and create some content on this, it can be very valuable. We all have been very much a part as coaches of the RVA Rap Elite. I'm just curious of some of your feedback at this current time because I want to do some reaction stuff for them. I want us to create some conversation in response to all the great things that they're doing. I mean, shout out to Radio and Spielberg, West. Those guys are doing some phenomenal things right now. I think we're doing our part also as coaches and contributing to the culture. And, I really was impressed that night that you guys had the white sheet and the photography going on. So I think that's another special piece that you all bring to the culture with the photography. But just curious of some of your thoughts right now as it pertains to RVA Rap Elite. Has there been any artist that has stood out to you that has really, got your attention and that you really can see some positive things coming from in the future?
I will say that I've always been a fan of OZ.
I think we both are. I think.
Yeah. We
took him the first time.
Yeah, exactly. So so I've always been a fan, but I've seen what Rap Elite has done, like a fire that has sparked in him from the the competition, like the energy. I mean, when he hit me up and he told me about it, he's like, oh yeah, I got this. He was like, I'm about to go crazy. He was like, just watch, and it's just seeing the journey of what it started from, like the conception, because it's a phenomenal idea. Like I love fantasy football, so I thought that the idea was brilliant, and just to see it from that to what it's growing into, and to see just the passion and the fun that people have, and like I think we have so much fun as well. It's just I can see how it's something that I think the culture needed here in Richmond. I think it's really cool,
Sure. I was hopeful that during this thing they got going right now with the sweet, I don't know what it's called, but the internet-based battles. I feel like it'd been great if us as coaches would have been able to gain some points from this situation because
oh, I know you do. Yeah, it would have though. It would have. We gotta see about that.
OZ is definitely one of my favorites. I think he's definitely he's interesting. He's a different type of artist. I think what we're seeing right now with the format that they're showing, he's definitely excelling in it, is that you see a certain skill set with the artists when they're on stage. The Will Youngs, the basics, they demand the authority on the stage. They step to the front of the stage. They can, but you see a completely different side of an artist when they have to do the video. You got some artists who are just sitting in the car, some artists who are creating, like OZ, for example, creating videos. Kilroy G just did a really cool visual with the, so I think you see different aspects of their art in this format, and I really like that. Cheese, who's really stood out to you?
Well, let me back up, because is Gigi cleaning her linen?
I know, was that? I'm sorry, that was trifling. That was trifling.
Happened?
Sorry.
No, let me back up though, first and foremost, because I do think you're on to what I would say has to be kind of the quintessential kind of hip hop event, buzz, series, whatever you want to call it, especially for independent hip hop artists in Richmond. And when I look at Rap Elite, for me, I look at the whole journey of it, and I can't even talk about Rap Elite without mentioning Radio B and what he's done. I mean, everybody knows I'm close with Radio B. He's a brother of mine. But from start to where it is now, and the dedication and the perseverance he's put into it to make it work, to what you just talked about, build a team that can make it work to where they are now and what they've done and where he willed Rap Elite. Do not get it twisted. Yeah. Radio B willed Rap Elite into what it is now. Yeah. And they're doing great things, and they will continue to do great things. But if it wasn't for literally his will and his determination of, like, this has to work, like, we have to make this work, it wouldn't be. Because there were times, man, early on when I'm talking to him, and I'm like, bruh, you sure? You know what I mean? Like, locations, name changes, all kinds of stuff that he was doing to make it work. And one of the things that I love about him, but I love about people like him in particular, is they have this mentality that they're not gonna lose. Like, I'm gonna keep doing this until it may not work in this iteration, it may not work with this name, it may not work in this location, but I'm gonna keep coming back. And everything that's happening with Rap Elite now is because of the will of one person in a small group of people that really just made it amazing. So that's what stands out to me with Rap Elite above any individual artist, rhyming, like in coaching and all of that, is the structure that they put in place to be successful, and the determination that, Radio, Frank, Spielberg, BC, everybody that's a part of it, like, had to really go. And I don't think we know enough. I think the three of us on this Zoom know, because we all have our own projects, and a lot of those we have to will when nobody's really understanding what it takes. But what they've done with that product and moving it to the dark room and being sold out. I apologize for going long, but
actually, Zoom just told us that we could. Did y'all see that pop on the screen?
I did. I was like, go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, we got an endorsement from Zoom, so we're not cut off, I guess, now.
Hey.
But
first time we've done this.
I'm immensely pleased with what they've done, and I'm at a certain age now where I remember talking to my wife and talking to my family and saying, at certain parts of my life, say late teens, early 20s, like, I missed a lot of what I think could have been if I was really focused on like hip hop culture during those times, like really focused, not just like a fan of hip hop, but really focused on what was going on, maybe from a journalistic standpoint or photography standpoint. I was like, yo, I miss so much. And what Rap Elite does for me when I'm able to go, it gives me that feeling where, yo, this is where the epicenter of kind of, if something's going to grow out of this, where a bunch of hip hop artists might be able to really build something and we can see it on the ground floor. Usually, I feel like, depending on where you are, what you're doing, you might miss the ground floor of certain things. But I think Rap Elite is the ground floor for independent hip hop, not just in Richmond. I think it's you see the way the 757's coming into it. You see the way Intellect and ATI and all these guys are coming on it. And a couple of things too that I will say that is exciting is a lot of those guys. OZ you mentioned, but
go ahead and drop some names. Go ahead and drop some names.
Intellect. No, I'm saying they freestyled on our show. OZ freestyled on our show.
He did?
Early.
Okay.
Definitely in the fam studio days because his apartment was right there. We had Intellect come to our show. Like, you know what I mean? Like we put all of ATI. So Will Jung, Basic, Lucid, Intellect. We put all of those. Remember, Gigi, to open up for the Odyssey show. Remember when they opened up for the Odyssey show at Strange Matter?
Because they killed it. Yeah.
It was amazing. But being able to kind of see the young MCs grow, but also some of the people that are really putting in work, know that they've been on the show as well. It's interesting to see. Now, really quickly, who is impressive? You got to be impressed with. You got to be impressed with what Basic has done. You got to be impressed with what Vintage has done. You got to be impressed with Tone Red. You got to be impressed with what he's done. You got to be impressed with
freestyles almost everything.
Yeah, no, I mean,
he's a beast.
That makes it even more impressive, because we talked about it. Like Tone Red is not really. He may have some concepts together, but it could easily switch up once he's listened to his competition.
Yeah. No, I mean, so it's great, man. I think what they've done is great. I really enjoy it. I enjoy the fantasy aspect of it and drafting and being able to see if we can put teams together. But really, it's for the artist, man. I think radio will be the first to tell you that it's for the artist, and with the artists show up and show out, it makes it for a better, better experience.
Yeah, appreciate you all providing that feedback. While we're on hip hop, let's stay there for a minute. Who are you listening to right now? Are you listening to music right now? Listen to me.
Does Gigi listen to hip hop? What happened to you? This is gonna be like when you ask Michael Jordan what he said. Michael Jordan's like, I don't listen to hip hop.
What are you listening to, Gigi?
Interview.
I'm gonna be honest. I have been listening to a lot of Lloyd Banks mixtapes.
Lloyd Banks?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God. Banks is like one of my favorite lyricists ever. Lloyd Banks and J.R. Ryder.
Yes, Dipset.
Yeah. I'm serious, because I have a battle rap league, so I listen to a lot of battle rap. And 40 Cal just came out. He's like hitting the ring now, and like Cortez is trying to lure J.R. Ryder into the ring. It's really juicy. So, but yeah, I've been listening to a lot of Banks, Fabulous. I've been listening to that gritty, back in the day, old school, Funk Flex, Big Truck series, like old school gritty, like mixtapes.
Hey, you want to talk about your battle league real quick while we on that?
Shout out to LOC League of Champions. Corona. The Corona done messed up like several battles we're supposed to have. So all my guys are at home like begging to do like virtual battles, and they're like chomping at the bitch trying to battle and sneak off and battle and play in crazy places. So yeah, it's kind of it's nerve-wracking right now in regards to battle rap, but Yeah, I've been in like a real lyricist, like hardcore bar vibe lately, though.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Sheets? You listening to
I
music right
mean,
now?
I think a good thing about this time period is it does allow you to sit with some things that you hadn't been able to sit with in a while. Like I think when we we're moving so fast that we don't really get to sit with new projects. So the two that I probably listen to the most is the J Electronica project. So I listened to that, and I was able to sit with it for a while because I was able to hear it a couple times more than just kind of hearing it once and having to make an opinion on it. And then the West Side Gun joint that just came out, Pray for Paris. I've been able to listen to that on the walks a couple of times.
All right, let's go back to the J Electronica real quick, all right? Because I've been having this conversation with friends. We've been waiting for it. Happy to have it.
Yeah.
It's definitely good music. It's quality.
Yeah.
There's been some opinions about, I mean, if anybody could drop their first album and have Hove on it, then obviously, like, you can't complain,
Yeah.
But there's, you can make an objective, critical opinion in regards to the fact that he's on pretty much the whole album, So it's like so you can make that argument. But I want to throw this out there: is this a better project? And I'm gonna go ahead and say that I don't think it is.
Okay.
And then Watch the Thrones.
No, it's not.
I don't either.
Here's the thing, though. I'm going to tell you that in my mind, the thing about Jay Electronica is that he just missed his window. I mean, I think if he had delivered that exact same album 4 years ago, 4 years ago probably, 3 years ago, if he had dropped that same project after he dropped some of the, even if after he dropped Shiny Shoot Theory or something like that, I think the reception of the album would have been completely different.
Why you say that?
Because he missed his window. I think we've been waiting so long. It's kind of like, I don't know if you remember in kind of the hip hop history, remember when 50 Cent and Kanye West dropped on the same day?
Yes.
And it was like this huge build up about who was going to sell more and who was kind of the big dog at the time.
Yeah.
50 had been hot for so long at that point, and Kanye had all the momentum, and Kanye washed them when they both dropped at the same time. And it wasn't because 50 album was bad. It was because the window it closed. You know what I mean? 50 had been on top for so long.
I think Kanye also, though, was more commercially visible, too, though. Like, I feel like he brought more antics.
Here's the thing, though. You got to think back at the time. At the time, 50 Cent and G-Unit.
They was huge.
There's no He was doing Reebok. They were doing Reebok deals. It wasn't like Kanye they were bigger than each other.
But Kanye created a new time. The time that we're in now is probably because of Kanye.
I think the window was, but I think the window of 50 Cent's run, and I do think he maxed when he was the hot dude and he was coming out and they did In the Club and all of that and all the G-Unit stuff. That was his window. That was his way for that particular time. Not saying that you can't create other times, but my read with Jay Elect, especially with this album and the timing that it was released and all of that, was just, my thought is he could have dropped the same project, the exact same project 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And don't get me wrong, Hove being on it is a plus to anybody that follows hip hop.
Even at 50.
Yeah, but even 3, 4 years ago, it would have still been bigger.
But would it have been better? Would it have been better than Watch the Thrones? But would it have been better than Watch the Thrones?
No, I think that the time. Well, one.
Even if they dropped at the same time, I'm saying if they would have dropped 3-4 years ago.
Watch the Thrones would have been a better album, though. Like, it would have been a bigger album. It would have been a better album, I think. Now,
again, which one?
I think if they dropped at the same time, even in both their windows or whatever, my read of the product would have been. Here's the thing: it's difficult because Watch the Throne had, two of the hottest hip hop artists of all time in peak performance with big records. Yes. Like, there's not a Paris on the Jay Electronic album. There's just not.
And we could interpret Watch the Thrones. I hear a lot of people struggle with being able to understand what the hell Jay Electronic was talking about. I mean,
right, but that's also that album is for I think my read of that album, the reason why I enjoy it, because I do enjoy the JLX album a lot. The more I listen to it, the first listen, I had to process. But as you listen and listen and listen on, I think it gets better and better and better the more you listen to it, because you really are breaking down lyrics and how they come out. I mean, some really great songs on there, great tracks. But they're not. They are for the people. That album is for the people that are literally walking around saying Jay Electronica is one of the best lyricists of all time. Like, that's who this album is for. It is for those people that want to sit and break down lyrics, break down 5% theory. They're like, it's a different tool.
Yeah.
Watch the Throne was like, yo, we're gonna put out the biggest records we can put out with big sounds, and we're gonna get, Otis Redding features. that was anybody remember that when they were like, Otis featuring Otis Redding? Otis Redding been dead for how many years? There's just like, it was amazing what they did with that, but they had big records, man. And I do think they're different products, but if you're trying to compare what's a better album based off of what the projects are, impact, what they did, Throne is a very impactful album.
Yeah. So you listen to Jay Electronica?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, West Side Gun.
West Side Gun.
But I will tell you what I've really been listening to. Huh?
Gigi listened to Lloyd Banks.
And JR.
2007.
Don't forget about Dipset. No, but I will tell you too, I've been really into, and y'all can tell me, Randy, you can tell me, I've been really into what the Versus stuff. So with Swiss Beats and Timberland and the Versus stuff. So after every Versus, Tidal puts out a playlist of what whoever was battling played, and I favorited. I put a heart bookmark on all of those battles, whether it was Swiss and Tim, whether it's Manny Fresh, Scott Storch, whether it's Babyface, Teddy Riley. I listen to those playlists throughout the day. I mean, those Little John, T-Pain. I listen to them all.
Yeah,
and it's been one of the. I think that series has been a real blessing during this period of time.
I think we're going to compete with them and break the internet, though, when we put this out.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, they're doing numbers.
They're doing great. I love it. I want to debate. I be watching the fake after shows. Young Guru has a fake after show. I love it. Versus is one of the best things that's happened during this time.
So let me ask you all a couple of questions, and I want to play a game with you all before we leave as well. Just a little, help our audience get more familiar with the things about you all that they won't know. But let me ask you a question. I was talking to a very intelligent friend of mine, only like one of very few, and she made the comment that, as we're working to approach a new normal, the old normal, there's some things about the old normal that kind of have begun getting old. So even though this may not be the most enjoyable time of our life, we have to embrace it for what it is and figure out the value of what this means and building it toward tomorrow, right? But when you think about the past, is there anything that you feel like that we miss now that maybe we're kind of getting old? And one of the things I think about is just a matter of like hygiene. I feel like we took hygiene for granted before this time. I know I did. I can tell you now, like me personally, this may sound gross to a lot of people, but like, I don't have the best hygiene. I mean, I take a shower and stuff when I go to work, when I go out, but like outside of that, like I ain't been the best. Like now I wash my hands every time I come in the house, every time I go out. I'm constant. Like, I mean, no, I've been a person, and I feel like there's a lot of women who can empathize with me. Like, I ain't been about washing my hair or washing my head all the time. Women can empathize with that. Women ain't washing hair all the time. It's not been good for the hair.
Right.
I'm one of those people where like I used to feel like showers are overrated. Like I ain't going nowhere. Going on, you know what I'm saying? So that's changed. I've taken showers every day since Corona. Okay, every single day. Now my question is there anything from the past that you feel like kind of got old that this is a good change for? outside of hygiene? Because I know your hygiene has improved as well. Both, I know it has. It's had to. Both of y'all got hand sanitizer right now. Y'all wasn't keeping hand sanitizer in the car. She's ain't even been at the house though. So I mean,
yeah,
I'm a germaphobe, so I it was close. It's been close, you know. I don't know, man. I'm just glad that some people. I think just the calmness. I just feel like it's just everything is just more calmer now in regards to nature. I feel like this has really given a lot of people who were just so busy on the go chance to really self-reflect, really just take a moment and just calm the energy down. You know what I mean? It's just
I kind of got this is kind of getting back to it, but like I know there's a lot of people playing golf right now. And a lot of people are mad because they took the rims off the basketball courts.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's like, I don't know if basketball is very tough. It'd be very tough to manage basketball, but it's a privilege, right? It's a recreational activity.
Facts.
But I ride a bike. I ride a road bike a lot. I mean, I pass by the golf course, like they're not practicing social distancing. I do feel some type of way about that a little bit, I guess. I feel like there's a little bit of discrimination with it. I do. I
passed tennis courts. Tennis courts were up until last time I drove past Bird Park, it was empty. But up until, I guess, these recent kind of restrictions, Bird Park was packed with tennis players and joggers and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
It just makes me feel like there's a little bit of cultural discrimination there. And I mean, just from the standpoint of, I mean, if there's a group of kids that get together and play baseball or softball in the park, are anyone going to break them up?
Gigi, I got one. Gigi's a conspiracy theorist person of this. And I had a conversation with what Randy said, a very smart person, a very person I take their advice to heart. Let me ask, Gigi probably is a conspiracy theorist. Let me ask you this. All the news that's been coming out recently about coronavirus being more dangerous in the Black community. We know that's a fact when we look at.
Do we know that that's a fact, Cheats?
Let's just say the numbers are reporting that more African Americans are susceptible right now in reporting. It's susceptible, and more African Americans have died because of coronavirus percentage-wise. The question I have for you is, that news getting out, does that make it, is there something behind that makes it less likely to get funded, less likely to get, because if it's labeled as a problem that mostly affects African Americans, does that make it more likely or less likely to get solved?
Honestly, I dispute.
I'm sorry, Randy. This is Randy's show too. I'm sorry.
No. This is great. Keep it going. I'm waiting for her answer.
No, like I literally dispute all the numbers pointing to the fact. Like I think it's bull. I really think it's all falsified. Honestly, I think the numbers are so inflated. It's sickening. And I think that it's actually a premeditated strategy from the powers that be to kind of push this vaccine. Because I think Bill Gates.
Oh, jeez.
No, yeah, don't even get me started. I will go down this rabbit hole.
This is why the show is the way it is. Because I completely disagree. There is nothing I would disagree stronger with.
That's crazy.
I think the numbers are underreported because I don't think we have enough tests. And I think people that might, quote unquote, they might label them dying from a heart attack. They probably had that heart attack because there was something about coronavirus related to it.
Wow.
I think there is. Again, I am extremely pessimistic on reopening and when we're going to get back to a new normal. That I am very pessimistic on how this is going to. And I do think unless we get some sort of therapeutic medicine that works, some sort of vaccine, we are never. I know what you're saying about vaccines, but I'm saying we're never going to be normal because, again, if nothing changes and Governor Northam or President Trump is like, yo, go outside to that football game, I ain't going.
I got one for you. And I'm in agreement with Cheats on this one.
You haven't changed anything.
I got a question for you, Cheats. Question for you. If they develop a vaccine, allegedly,
Yep.
will you feel comfortable with your son getting that vaccine?
Me?
Yeah.
Would I? Like, yes, I would. If they develop a vaccine, brother,
I would.
I would have.
I'm scared.
Again,
I feel like
I'm
we
not
need
one.
time to test it. Because every
I'm
time I've
not
ever got a
one.
flu vaccine, I've got more sick than I've ever been in my life.
Exactly. And that was the point. And Bill Gates himself said that when they administer vaccines to the people, at least 700,000 people will be negatively impacted or infected or affected by the vaccine.
I'm with you on waiting.
Homeschool is going to have to
I'm
come
with
into
you on
play.
weighting the risk and reward, but I'm telling you now, I'm not one of those people that are like, don't vaccine your children. I'm not one. I know people are and they have their reasons to be, but I don't want polio. I don't want Cam to have scurvy. Like, there are vaccines. They're I think there are things in medicine, whatever you consider medicine. So for example, some of y'all will be like, no, I don't need penicillin, but yet I'm going to smoke all of this natural. I'm going to smoke as much weed as possible because my neck hurts. So, I mean, there's different types of medicines, right? There's different types of medicines. They do different things. But I believe that there are medical therapeutic remedies that do work. And I do believe there's some vaccines that work.
And I believe that this is Tuskegee 2.0. I really do.
Tell you what, to
And
Cheath's
this is
original,
the CheatsMovement podcast in a nutshell. That's it.
to Cheath's original question, I feel that I feel part of the problem in the Black community is that there's a lot. I mean, I have heard. I'm a part of the community, okay? I'm just telling you what I hear, okay, from my fellow brothers and sisters, okay? In the beginning, we were immune to it. I don't know why we were so ignorant to feel like we're immune to it when China and Africa are not that far apart. We're not immune to it. But I feel that, our community congregates together closely, so that's one thing. If you think about it, we're not staying inside. We're not. Black people are going about everyday life in the majority like nothing's changed.
I disagree. I think people change their behavior. I do.
Listen, if you look at the areas in the community that are dealing with poverty, where are they going? Where are they going?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Not only that, they use city transportation. You know what I'm saying? Like, they access in public places.
Right.
So it's like,
those are the mitigating factors of, I think, why it affects African Americans
yeah,
more.
that's what I'm saying. There's so many factors in regard to.
There's social factors that don't allow the privilege of teleworking, quarantining at home, not public transportation.
Yeah.
But I do believe people are changing their behaviors.
I think people are changing their behaviors, but I just feel like it's ignorant to think that because of the melanin in their skin.
Yeah,
we're immune
that's
to
crazy.
Crazy. And I think so because of that, we're not. As a culture, we're not changing our behaviors enough for us to be top.
Here's what I think. I think the challenge is, if you make this a civil rights issue or a quality issue or a race issue, I think it ignores the fact that it's a healthcare crisis. It's a health issue. And I think if you're telling people that it's a health issue, I think people are going to be more willing to want to solve it. I think if you start targeting it to people, it's not apples to apples. But it's kind of like when people thought HIV was just a disease for homosexuals, right? I think if HIV was just a disease for homosexuals, I think they had to change that thinking before they got a problem solved.
I've heard the conspiracy theory type people, right? I have heard, though, that there's people who
Broadway.
I'm just talking about you, Gigi. I mean, there are people out there. Look, there are people out there who can perceive this because blacks are in a high number in having this situation, that this is something that's being used as a cultural divide. So, like, if people like white people are getting it from us, so it's just another reason to divide cultures because the black people are having.
Oh, I didn't hear that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah. So, it's like, who do you see wearing more masks? I mean, you don't.
Look, that is one thing that you were talking about behavioral changes. I've seen more brothers wearing masks than ever before in my life. Like, white people are like, yo, we're
Look,
going to wear our
look,
masks.
hey,
We're
but
going to put our gloves on. We're going to go to Costco. But we're going to put our mask on.
look, but we are now being discriminated against too based off what kind of mask we have on. So now if a brother got a blue bandana on his face,
Oh my
That's funny.
God.
the grip.
That's funny.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying it's still another reason to divide culture. Unfortunately,
I think if they take whatever this administration does, I think taking it away from a healthcare issue, a universal global healthcare pandemic, even if what they're doing now is they're making it an economic issue, right? They're making it a business issue, and it's an economic crisis due to a healthcare pandemic. But they're trying to solve the economic problem. They're not really trying to solve the healthcare problem with the same fervor. And I think that as long as there's a healthcare global pandemic problem without some of the things that Gigi Broadway hates, the economy's still gonna struggle because people aren't gonna feel comfortable going outside.
Gotcha.
Would you feel comfortable going to a 100,000 seat football game? Would you feel comfortable going to a 50,000,
I'm gonna be honest with you.
35,000 basketball game?
You got a background in social work.
Yep.
We have some things in common on the human service side. I'm beginning to contemplate if I'm in the right career. I am nervous right now in regard. And I've never been this way before. I've never been this way before. I've always prided myself on interpersonal skills and personable and like connecting with people. And no, we used to fist bump. Now, like social distance. Now created a whole.
Like I haven't hugged anybody outside of my wife and kid in a month and a half.
No, not at all. Look, I want to do a quick little game with you guys before we close. Okay. I want to ask each of you 5 just random questions, okay? Or, scenarios, all right? This is for the audience. This is for the audience. I'm going to start with Gigi, okay? And I'm doing these completely off the head. This is a freestyle, okay?
Okay.
Obviously inspired and motivated from, like what Cheat said, I'm watching all these live things that's happening right now. And I've watched Joe Buttons do this. So, Gigi, what's more important to you? Your feet or your hands? Your nails? Like toes or fingers? What's more important? What's a priority?
Toes or fingers? Definitely fingers.
Fingers are more important?
Yeah, and that's only because I talk with my hands.
Because you can cover the toes up?
Yeah, well, I talk a lot with my hands, so I feel like they're more of a focal point. They're more important to me than my toes. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right. I'm going to go back and forth. That's good.
Okay, I get a different question, right? I don't have to answer this.
Huh?
I get a different question, right?
Oh, of course.
No, I mean, look, when you go back and forth,
I'm not going to ask you about your toes or your feet.
No, it's fine. I just didn't want to answer the same question. Like,
You haven't been out. You haven't been outside in a while.
Nah.
Can I get a true feeling in regard to how you feel about your Knicks right now? Like, what's the state of the culture on behalf of the New York Knicks right now?
Can I be depressed and optimistic at the same time? Does that work? Can you be depressed and optimistic at the same time? Yeah. Because right now,
I guess it depends on how depressed you are.
Yeah.
Because right now, when I look at the current situation, I'm depressed and disappointed and upset about some of the squandering of opportunities. But we have put in place things now that I think will allow us to be optimistic 4 or 5 years from now, if done correctly. We still have a chance to screw them up. But right now, dismal, very disappointed, and even just some of the little things, like the way they treated Oakley, the way they treat Spike, the way they treat Spike at the end of this season so far. But they're short-term contracts, RJ Barrett, the opportunity to get getting rid of David Fizdale, getting rid of some of the people in the front office. I just feel like we have reason to be optimistic in the future. Couple good draft picks. We're gonna have some.
I would keep Julius Randle. On the team.
No, he's gotta go.
Yeah, you have to.
No, I mean he's good for what it is now, but he's got to go. If you watch the games every week, he's got to go.
He got to go.
He's got to go. They all got to go. There's nobody on the team right now
Damn.
outside of like R.J. Barrett and possibly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they all got to go.
Get rid of Julius Randle?
Yeah, if I can get some picks, if I can get a couple picks, if I get a pick and maybe some cap space, yeah, you got to go. Got to go.
Yeah, that is harsh. I feel like okay.
No. This is what rebuilding is. You watch the light. Look,
He's only 20. What is he like? 22 years old? Is he 21?
Who?
Julius Randle's young though.
Nah, he's older than 21 though.
He ain't been in the league about 3-4 years.
He's a
He went 1 year at Kentucky.
Nah, he's got to go. I'm telling you, rebuilding is hard. Rebuilding is very hard. There's gonna be some growing pains.
You sound like a Celtics. You sound like
they gotta go.
Danny Ainge over here. Okay.
Gotta go.
All right.
Gotta go.
Gigi.
Yeah.
Childhood crush.
Oh. I think I ever asked it.
Celebrity. We're not talking about that, high school. You cannot God. No, I'm telling you. I don't know.
Childhood crush. This is easy. Do y'all remember the rapper A+?
A+.
Yes.
Radio personality for Power 92?
No.
Rapper.
He was a rapper.
I don't remember. I'm just joking. I don't. I'm sorry. I just threw that in there. It seemed like I don't know. I don't remember A+. I'm not. Is he good?
Yeah, this was old school. You remember him, Cheats?
Yeah.
I loved him. He had a song called like "You're All I See" or something. He was. I loved A+.
Okay. Hey, Cheats. I have to ask you the same thing because it's a good one. Well, I'm talking about 9th grade, 10th grade. Was you thinking about Monica when she was sitting on the roof for the, singing that song, or was it Aaliyah? She was showing her belly button. Like, who was it for you, Cheats?
Wow, I gotta think because I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Maybe Whitney from A Different World, or it was Lisa.
Wow.
Was it Lisa Turtle? Maybe, I don't know.
No, I'm trying to think.
Close the door, Cheats. This was before marriage. Okay, close the door.
No. I'm trying to think. Oh man, that's difficult because I would know. I wish I had a better answer. It's difficult though because I think I would know now. Like, you ever play, like, you're married, so you ever be like, yo, if you get hit by a bus, wife, these are the people I can marry now.
Okay.
But then.
Okay. All right. We'll take that. If you're riding by a bus, God forbid, who?
No.
Celebrity now.
No. I can go back because I got one.
Okay.
Salt from Salt and Pepper and the Push It video days.
Really?
I was very young. But Salt from Salt. So there was always a big. No, get this straight now.
Why is that so funny to me?
I mean, come on. That was the last. I was not expecting him to go to Salt and Pepper.
I'm trying to think about how deep, like, in childhood we're talking, because we had the childhood battles about who was flyer, Salt or Pepper, back in the Push It days.
I was all about Spinderella. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was like Spinderella was the one.
I don't even know if Spinderella was in the band then. Like, if you go to the Push It
why
video,
she came into the band. They needed her.
Nah, but Salt was.
They needed to blend. They needed to obey. Salt and Pepper was not doing it. Like, they needed to mix.
What are you talking?
Spinderella was the mix. She was the blend. Seriously, she was the sexiest one.
Man. Oh man. Well, that's a good question. I gotta think. Something is gonna come back to me, actress wise or something, when this is over.
All right, I got you. Gigi, chicken or fish?
That's a good one. I had to go fish, I think. Yeah, fish.
Okay. Me too. Cheese, I got one for you.
Stacey Dash. Before she is who she is now, like the clueless Stacey Dash.
Yeah.
Clueless
I liked her in that Kanye
Dash.
video also. I still like her in that video as well.
Oh no, she's beautiful, but like Kanye, you can't take the crazy out of like the genius. So she's beautiful now, but she's crazy now. So Stacey Dash though, back then, that was pretty amazing.
Cheese, can I ask you a political question?
Sure. I'm sorry.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
From the ordinary, everyday person, perception wise, do you think that because of all the everything that we've seen that's going into this stimulus package situation, right? Like
Okay.
between the Democrats and Republicans, do you feel?
Okay.
I'm going to propose it like this. Part of me feels that Democrats have there's such a goal right now. I mean, for Trump to be at office, that I feel like maybe some of the judgment and the decision making that's happening right now is more focused on that than what's focused on helping us right now and making America a better place. So my question to you is this: do you?
What's the question? Because on which side? Because
Excuse
the
me.
argument out on which side? Because the argument I would make is that the administration is so hell bent on returning to office that they're doing things that are putting people at risk.
Well, my question is, do you feel like with what the Democrats are doing right now, okay, do you feel like it's going to hinder or help contribute positively for the presidential election going forward in regard to Trump being reelected or Biden possibly getting in?
I mean, I think it's going to be factors outside of what happens in Congress, Washington, D.C., whether Trump returns to office or not. I think what we're seeing is that this president had one calculation. That calculation was he could do whatever he wanted to do as long as the economy was good. And I think that might actually have been a smart strategy. Nobody outside, December, January, whatever. But going into office, no one saw this level of a global pandemic affecting the entire world. Mm-hmm. But my thought is he could do all that he wanted to do, put people in cages, ban countries, call them whatever, say whatever he wanted to do. As long as he could say that we had one of the best economies in the history of the world while he was president, and he's the businessman president, he would have probably been ushered back into the White House. That's my read. I think the calamity of what's happening now with the economy due to the pandemic is his worst nightmare politically. And he's going to do everything in his power between now and November to make sure that everybody knows things are getting back to normal, even if they're not. Even if people are dropping dead right beside him, he's going to say, we need to open back up, get the economy back going, and everything's going to be fine so I can get back into office. That's my read of it. My read is what the Democrats do, what I think the Democrats have continued to do is to try to make bad ideas better. Now, will they ultimately hurt themselves if it looks like they're delaying the process? Possibly, because you have not just a president, you have the most popular cable news network in the world is the president's propaganda machine. So whatever the president says, Fox News is going to say. And it's very dangerous, I think, that combination of what's happening. So especially with a president that actually looks to blame people. He's a president that is actually, he needs to blame the media. He needs to blame the World Health Organization. Mm-hmm. He needs to blame governors because he can't put the blame on himself, right? So I think all of that, Republican and like Democrat or Washington, however you want to look at it, all of that, I think, leads to what we're seeing right now, politically. And the question that you asked is, he's going to blame the Democrats no matter what. He's going to blame the WHO no matter what.
But I'm beginning. But I mean, forget what he does. I feel like regardless, there's a lot of people's public perception. I think there's a lot of people who would have voted. There's a lot of black people who would have voted Democrat because they always vote Democrat, and that's just what they do. And I think there's a lot of people right now that's looked at this and like, man, they really messing up my bag. They really messing up money. They're not working together. Like, they're so focused on trying to make sure that Trump don't get back in office that, like, we not getting our stimulus money. We not PPP. But a lot of people like that right now.
But I don't think – I think what's going to happen, honestly, is if this thing doesn't turn around and it looks like, he's telling different stories every week on this. See, the thing is, the president goes to a press conference every week, says one thing. And then, we have the ability of video cameras and documented records, right? So literally, they have these timelines. If he gets to later this fall and you keep seeing timelines of previous video clips of him saying things like, oh, this is going to go away in the summer months. It's one person in China, it's 15 people in China, and it's going to be down to 0 soon. And all of this is happening, which is well documented. And you start to see more and more people that get infected, get sick, and pass away. I think the problem is wherever we are when this gets to the fall is going to determine whether he goes back in office, Republican or Democrat. Like, that type of legislation stuff be damned. I really do think that if there is a significant uptick and in the president and the administration, whether it's they're doing or not, if it looks by in the fall like we're coming out of this thing and he's leading us out of it, then he'll go back in office. If it looks like he's continued to kind of screw this thing up, as I think he has done up until this point, you and I could be president because they're just not going to put him in.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Gigi, on a lighter note.
Chicken or fish? I get that one and you get chicken or fish. What is happening?
Listen, for those who don't know, listen, I feel like it's important that people know who may not know who's watching this podcast right now. Can you mind sharing what you do in your day-to-day life?
Yeah,
that's part of the reason why I asked you that question.
Yeah. No, I've worked for Senator Kane now since 2004. So I've been fortunate enough to work for I think a really, really good man and a public servant for a long time, and that's kind of shaped.
Arguably the best.
He's great. He's a great dude. He's a great dude, and we're gonna try to do the best we can.
So that's why I asked him that question.
Yeah, and I get it.
I mean, Gigi, you want to tap in on that?
Chicken or fish?
On what? On a day-to-day?
Do you agree with Cheats' response to that?
Hell no.
Not at all.
Go ahead. Give your response. Go ahead.
My response always leads to a lot of stuff, but I'll say that I think as a society, we're doing ourselves a gross disservice and injustice focusing on Trump when it's so many intricate parts that is involved with how things are ending up right now. And I want to believe, I know my opinion is in the minority, but I want to believe that it doesn't matter who's the commander in chief, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. The Deep South, the elite, the powers that be are still the ones running the whole show. They're still the vehicle behind most of the global decisions being made. And I think we should be directing our attention more towards that aspect and seeing how like the globalists are moving, different decisions being made on that large of a scale. I think it's some sinister stuff going on that's I can spend hours on it, but yeah, it's crazy to me.
Let me ask you one more question before we go back. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap us up here quick. Gigi, if Radio B is the mayor of Richmond hip hop, then what position does Cheats hold?
Yeah,
because he has to accept the title. He is definitely a honorable gentleman. I mean, I don't know. Is he a delegate? Is he a senator? Is he what is his role in? Look, we'll just say we'll keep it Richmond. In
Resident of Richmond.
If Radio is the mayor, then what is Cheats? Or is Cheats the mayor? And Radio, which is it?
I think so. I think
Radio is like his hip hop commander in chief or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I take offense to all of this.
How do you take offense?
Take offense to all of this. You know what? You know why I take offense to some of that stuff is because I know I didn't start writing about hip hop in Richmond till late 2011, 2012. So late 2011, fall of 2011 is when I first covered my first hip hop show. Shout out Black Liquid. Black Liquid invited me to Face Melt Friday in the fall of 2011. I probably covered, like, writing wise and photography wise. So I laugh at a lot of that stuff because the idea that, like, this wasn't going on and there wasn't, like, people even before Radio. Now, Radio B's been in the game much longer than I have, so, like, he knows that, and we always talk about that in that regard. But this is just, I would even argue that when we talk about, like, who's hot and who's, like, around, there are young rappers in Richmond. There are a large segment of rappers in Richmond that don't even know we had a podcast. Like, you talk to Richmond rappers now, and the show that we didn't have, we had an impact to a certain segment at a certain time and the blog, people don't even know I wrote stories. I mean, so
that's the same with Rapoid as well, though.
Yeah, the interesting thing, though, about all of it is that I think what was successful for the blog to begin with, because I think all of it still kind of kicks off with the blog, and then it moves to the podcast stuff. But what was successful about the blog at the time, when we're talking about that 2011, 2012, 2013 time where it was really a go, was that all of this stuff was going on, and there wasn't a embedded reporter, if you will, to put that stuff anywhere in a platform where people related to it. And that was a shout out. I mean, we missed all of this, but I tried to write for RVA Mag before I ever wrote for RVA Mag. And I tried to write for Style Weekly before I ever wrote for Style Weekly. And I tried to do all of these things. And what happened was, when we never got put on, I made the blog because I'd probably had a year and a half of being rejected from not being able to write these types of stories. And so when we were able to get on the blog, created a blog and was able to put, whether it was Black Liquid or Obliv or Radio B or any of those folks, and we started, and that site became what it was. I know, and now that I see where we are now and what we do now and what Gigi and I do now is so much even different than what we did then. CheatsMovement as a purely hip-hop entity in Richmond, 2013 to, I don't know, 2011, late 2011 to maybe 2014, 2015 when Cam got born. And that's it. Like, so, and now it's different, and there's still hip-hop, and hip-hop culture is the driving force of what we do now. But I am really hesitant about, like,
I get it.
Talking about, because it was such a short amount of time in the grand scheme of things for all of these people that we still see now doing so much work. And I think, all of us that were involved in the whole journey is really fortunate that we're able to have had such an impact in such a short amount of time. Now, granted, we put in a lot of work. We did really good work. We continue to do good work whenever we're doing. But I realized what it was, and I wonder, given all the resources that people have today, how come I guess I wonder why someone hasn't really just watched us, right? Like, at this point, we're the Source magazine, or we're, you know what I mean? We're something that people don't really check like that. And there should be some new journalistic outlet that is really like just dominates hip hop in Richmond. There should be some platform that is all over Rap Elite and all over, everything that everyone's doing culturally. Round 2, Chilele art. There should be some outlet that is, embedded with Mutant Academy and all of that stuff. And it kind of pains me that no one's figured out that formula to make a digital magazine or digital blog or digital platform that is like, whatever Lyrical Lemonade is in Chicago or the world or like the Two Dope Boys of Richmond. Like, I'm surprised. Like, no one's just dominated that because there's no reason why that the blog as it stands now should be relevant in hip hop. It's not really relevant in hip hop like that, but I mean, technically we could, it wouldn't take us very long. If we really wanted to go back, it wouldn't take us very long, but it shouldn't be that way. It should be something else, I think.
I mean, yeah, just don't dismiss. I hear
listen,
you. I hear you. I get it,
We had
but
a dominant run. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, you just
And what we're doing now, and I think I can't, because we had some really good times there. I think what we're doing now is a whole different level of
yeah.
just like
Yeah,
we're doing now.
I want to make sure that the audience listening, though, is not dismissing the value of how impactful the CheatsMovement podcast and blog has been. Though it's like, granted, yeah, there's so much more potential for what could and should be, but the reality of it is that you guys have been a central piece of it all for a period of time, and that's why you are appreciated, and that's why you've been able to represent for 10 years in the culture.
And let me be clear too. And Gigi, you can say what you want on this one. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, what we're doing now, we're really good at. Like, the shows that we're doing now and the stuff that we do now, like, there's not going to be an entity that comes in and washes what we're going to do now. I'm kind of comparing it to what we did do. Does that make sense?
I got you.
Like, what we do now,
Okay.
I mean, it's a different level.
So
presidential candidate.
That's good. And we're going to end on, I got a question that we're going to end on with that. Before I go there, a really quick response from both of you guys on internet connection is unstable. Okay.
No, you're good. I got you.
Yeah. Really quick question. Both of you. Gigi first. Jada Fab? Jada or Fab?
Fab.
Cheats.
Fab.
For me?
Yes.
Oh, Jada.
Okay, of course.
Jada, for sure.
I didn't expect y'all to agree. Gigi,
Don't even look at me like that.
Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. Not even close.
Oh, Jordan, yeah.
Okay.
Not even close.
All right. Okay.
I would love to have this. We should have done this long. I would love to have the smoke on this because there is no one in basketball. So I will just for the sake of argument, we can argue all of this. Greatest of all times. I only have a few definitive ones. Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer of all time. Mm-hmm. Jay-Z is the greatest rapper of all time.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time?
Yeah. I'll give Brady good sense. Yeah.
All right. Hey, before we close, what can we expect on the horizon for the CheatsMovement podcast in 2021? Because I think 2020 is over. I don't know. Maybe not over. But 2020 right now, obviously the brakes are on it right now. We really can't say but so much in regard to what our full potential is going to be.
Gigi, what are you going to do for the rest of 2020?
Well,
2021.
According to Cheats, we're not going to be back into society until 2024. So we're
hiatus. We're on hiatus.
So I don't know, man. It's just the possibilities are endless right now. I really want to hit YouTube hard, man. I've been something that has been on like my agenda for a long time. So I'm going to throw some ideas at Cheats and see what he thinks about it. But yeah, man, that, and I want to tap into some streaming as well.
Hey, check out the Indie Tube also.
The what?
Indie Tube.
Is that Ethan?
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out Ethan.
Indie Tube. All right, I'm gonna check that out.
It's kind of like a YouTube. He's actually in my opinion, I want to say improved. And the reason why I say improved his format, because now you can actually copy your YouTube link and drop it in the IndieTube link, where before you had to upload a file. So it's like, it was just a little bit more challenging because he wants to separate. He wants to be, his own thing. He don't want to be really associated with YouTube. But the benefit of it now is that for independent artists, filmmakers, it's a platform solely for them. And it's a cool concept. So definitely check out the indietube.com. It's cool.
All right.
Cheats. What's the future of the podcast?
From hiatus. Here's the thing. I'll tell you, before hiatus, before we really got knocked down in early March with this thing, we were like, Gigi will tell you, we were on go mode. We were doing the portrait photography project. I'd kind of recruited some new writers for the site. We had a bunch of new writers on the site doing some really good work. We were prepping our show to move to VPM. So we had the pilot episodes with Skills and Eric Nielsen and some other folks that we interviewed for our pilot episodes for VPM. And so we were really full speed ahead with we were even talking about doing, Gigi and I think this is speaking out of school, we were even talking about doing a live show. It's dead now, so I can tell you guys, we had put in an offer for Little Brother to play the Broadway that we were going to host. They didn't take our bid, but we were moving along pretty fast. And so the one good thing I think is that when you're moving that fast, you don't really know when you need to slow down. And what this has done for us, and the reason why, while I think everybody in digital land, the idea is we can go harder now. We can do more creative stuff. We can get more work done and get ready for when everything gets back to normal. And I didn't take that approach. And the reason I didn't take that approach at all, like I went the whole 360 opposite, like, yo, we're shutting down. We're not we're not doing anything outside of the message I put on the blog to be like, yo, we're shutting down. And I do think that that's a good thing, man, because now that we've been able to take a step back, I think we realize that, like, going so hard for so long, you miss things, whether it's time with your family, or whatever. And we would have never had a break. Like, literally, we would have never had a break. It would have been project after project and bigger thing after bigger thing. And so, to answer your question, I do think moving forward, I'll figure out the writing aspect of this and how it applies to Richmond culture overall, because I do think that was a big piece that I enjoyed and a big piece that I think is still missing. One of the real reason we started the blog in the first place was because there was this giant hole of there was this lack of media coverage of creative content, and a lot of the creative content that we were covering was covered by Black and brown people in Richmond, and there was no place that was going to give them justice to cover, amazing events that they were doing, right? And so we provided that outlet for a number of years and putting all the stuff that we covered on that site. And that's what made the site a big deal. It wasn't necessarily just hip hop. It was, covering Tuesday Verses or covering festivals and all, doing all the things that we were able to do. And so I think writing is a big part of that. And I think people write less now in these aspects. They might have more podcasts or YouTube panels, but there's not a lot of sites that people are going to read content and see, coverage of really cool events that are happening in their hometown. So I think there's a missing aspect of that, and we're trying to figure that out. I do think there's going to be probably for me in the next year, especially depending on how long the downtime comes, they'll be writing like more fictional writing and more like screenplays type stuff, and types of things. It's something that outside of writing our CheatsMovement commercial featuring Mayor LeVar Stoney, outside of that, like I've never really dove deep into like script writing. But I've got a couple of buddies that are really good, and they're really good like film directors and creative stuff. And I've gotten some ideas that I've been kind of working on, that type of stuff, and that stuff I can do, and probably get in a position to get some shorts made whenever we come back to normal. And I do think that those types of things, photography will be a big part of it. Directing videos and some of the stuff that we did early on that were trash. Like I directed I directed 2 really good music videos, but I directed a bunch of trash. And I think I have the technology and the smarts to hire a director of photography and do some things that I didn't do in the past to make some of those video shorts better. And then the last thing I'll say is I do really like working with talent, identifying and working with talent that's not necessarily mine. So, we've never really gotten it right, but I love the idea of a podcast network. I love the idea of hosting a bunch of different writers on the site and introducing their voices. I love the idea of trying to figure out how I can help different types of projects get off the ground in Richmond. And so there'll be a lot of that type of stuff as well. And I think, ultimately we'll get the podcast on VPM and, run shows once a week from that format. But
well, you said earlier that you was an ideas guy. You're an ideas person.
I like to think so. I don't know, Gigi. You can tell me. I don't know. Who has more ideas, Gigi? Me or you? I don't know. You have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what makes you guys great. Yeah, I mean,
You have a lot of ideas.
And I just want to make sure that you don't. I feel that you have to be. Someone has to tell you this, because you two are not the type of individuals to just be ego based. But you got to accept the flowers when they're given for what it is.
We talk bad shit to ourselves.
Yeah.
You get off this, you'll see. We talk bad shit.
But your ideas and the things that you've said, and just listening to that, it kind of it contributes to creating a vision for the future. With the CheatsMovement podcast, and not only with the CheatsMovement podcast, but also just for the hip hop community culture of Richmond, particularly, at least for our demographic at minimum. With all those things that you said, that's part of the reason why I feel like people, or at least me, it's the reason why I say, you guys both equally hold a role in the hip hop government of Richmond because of the ideas, the vision, and the follow through. So, you could say, Randy, just, you got to give a gab, you like to talk, but I think it really holds a lot more merit. And it's not for you guys to say about yourself. It is for other people to, take the time to give you your flowers and your recognition. So I just want to thank you guys for the example that you provided, the inspiration that you provided. And I genuinely mean that. Like, you have been an inspiration to me. And I'm just really happy that we had this conversation and that you continue to keep going. And I think this is going to be I look forward to editing it. I mean, I'm not gonna cut any of the content out, okay? But when I break it down, I really look forward to the different ways that we can, shoot this out and to meet the different people that the content, will speak to. Definitely gonna speak to Rap Elite. Got a little political, talked about some Corona, we talked about a lot of things, and I think that it's definitely going to add a lot of value to people. So thank you guys for being guests on the show. Look, you guys are so valuable. They gave us like an extra hour.
I saw that. I thought you had worked some magic over there when I saw the pop-up.
No, basically the internet people found out the CheatsMovement podcast was on the show.
I feel like
they blessed.
I definitely feel like I have the worst hair on this show. Randy's got the he's got the shave.
Jeez, this is the first time I shaved in a week and a half, though. I did it just for you guys.
I really did nothing for
the last time I did a Zoom, I hat fished the whole time. I had my hat on the whole time.
Hey, look, this is gonna happen. I was gonna have my hat on anyway. People find it weird if they see me and I don't have my hat on. So
yeah, it's 99% of the time.
99% of the time.
Very seldomly see you without a hat, Cheese.
Very seldom.
When you're meeting with Tim Kaine, do you have your hat on?
Yeah. Now. There's I did. It's funny because now we've worked together for a very long time. So now it's very strange professionally because they'll be like, yeah, like what the hell? Like how come they don't realize like in 2004, 2006, 2010, 2000, even later than that, I really thought that was my career path. Like I thought that, and it is my career, but I thought that like, one day being chief of staff or like getting these big time government, so I was one of those dudes running the rat race hard and I was good at it. And then my friends are good at it. The people that were coming up with me were like, they're big time folks now, but we were all kind of running this rat race at the same time. And when one of the things that did, I think, change for me is when I started the blog, I figured out that I had another, life is not the best word, but I had another outlet, if you will. A lot of the guys that were with me that were running the rat race, they didn't have another outlet. So either they made it and they're people like the mayor of Richmond, or they flamed out and they're nowhere to be found. And they didn't have they weren't able to put energy in a lot of, in a different pot. I put so much energy into kind of this different, like into the Cheats movement and all that stuff, that it never affected my job, but it probably did affect my ambition in a sense of, I don't never want to be quote unquote chief of staff to the governor of Virginia or anything like that. That's just not going to be my career path.
Yeah,
like
for you young guys out there, for you young guys, he can't be an example for you right now. Okay, you better take your hat off when you go in.
Yeah. It's funny though because
he's been blessed.
now,
Okay?
yeah, because now, but now it's also, I've spent my career with one guy. It's different for a lot of folks that have to switch politicians and different things happen through no fault of anybody at all. They got to switch their professional careers or whatever. But we've built up enough trust between that relationship where now it's different. But a lot of the young folks, I'm a horrible example to interns, and I'm a horrible example to like the 21-year-old out of college that gets a job in the senator's office. Because if they think they can go around and do the stuff that I do, they're gonna get fired.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't that guy at 25 or 24. I was a completely different guy. But they would get fired if they. And I tell them that. I give them a lot of game. I give our young folks a lot of game. But one of the things I tell them is, you're not me, right? And my relationship with Tim Kaine is not the relationship you would have with your boss. So don't go into your new job where you're like a legislative assistant and think you're gonna have a backwards hat on and go to meetings whenever you want and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Because even my long-term colleagues are like, so what's Cheatham doing? But works out.
Well, hey, it sounds like Cheatham has black privilege right now. Okay, so
very rare.
I'm joking.
I think it's like, again, probably a little bit more of.
Hey, I don't want to call it black. It's hip hop privilege. Okay, she has been able to evolve as a individual and being who he's respected in all communities, and he's able to be consistent in being who he is. That's
the other thing is, I tell people this all the time too. The other thing is, if I was bad, I would have been dismissed a long time ago. Like, again, the one thing by default, it's like the guy with good grades, right? If you get good academic grades in high school and college, you're able to get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? So if I was bad professionally, I'd been fired a long time ago. If I was bad at, writing and doing what we do with the blog, I would have been dismissed a long time ago in regards to somebody that, swooped in and didn't know a lot of stuff. So, I think you got to be good, and I think you got to make good products, and you got to produce good content.
Just like politics, though, it doesn't hurt that you're married and you have a son and you're a family guy. That doesn't hurt either.
Well, that's now. When I started 2011, I didn't even know my wife. So, when I started blogging, Lord, not even talking about 2004. Lord knows, those are some dark days. I'm better with my wife and my kid. Those are some hard living days back then. But I definitely think the work output helps. Like in the fact that people tend to respect the work helps. And so I think that goes for like all three of us on this.
Yeah.
On this, like this Zoom or this, on the Randy Wilson podcast. If the Randy Wilson podcast was not what it is, or Gigi Broadway wasn't who she was, and we just kind of had a history of putting out bad products, I think it wouldn't work as well as it does. But.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm gonna close out. Partly not because I'm not enjoying this. I'm enjoying this conversation. I could go all night, but I'm probably keeping my life up at this point. So I'm probably gonna have to go upstairs. I've been in the basement for about 3-4 hours. I probably need to probably return back, but it's been a pleasure to have you guys on. This is not this is just part one. Part two, we're coming back face to face, and we're gonna do something together. I look forward to that. So thank you guys for being on the show today. Be prepared for me to tag you in relentless different posts. Make sure before we close.
You've changed. Have you changed on that though? Your philosophy of how do you promote the show, has that changed?
Yeah. Depends. It depends on the.
Because early on, Randy was Randy tagged a lot of folks, a lot.
Yeah, it depends on the show. Well, I tagged you.
Yeah, but I'm good with it. I've never called you about that, but I think it's different. I'm interested to see how you feel like in regard to getting the word out now that you're way more established. You've had a lot of bigger shows. Like, do you feel like you have to work harder or less in promoting the show?
No, I don't work. I don't feel like I put a lot of effort into promoting the show per much as much as I try to put. I'm more focused on making sure that if I make a post, it's a post that's going to be quality and consistent on behalf of whatever the show is going to be.
Okay,
that's my goal now. I definitely used to be aggressive with the tags. I had to look.
Gigi, let people know Gigi doesn't listen. Do you know that, right? You know Gigi doesn't listen to the CheatsMovement. Gigi's never heard of me out.
Why you gotta call me out?
I don't doubt it though.
Never listens to it.
My wife doesn't listen to any of my shows. Ever.
Why?
It's my thing. I guess part of it is when in the beginning when I was doing this, my wife is great on the show. Like, she is. But the post show, it could get, because there used to be a lot of conversations in the basement. I did 6 shows before even putting out a show that never went out, and she was a part of them. And so the after shows started getting, intense. And she just felt like, look, this is your thing. You enjoy it. Let's do that. Because it just started getting, but I thought that's what made a good show. Because
how good is your wife with the time that you have to dedicate for the show? Does she like how much time you put into the show?
It depends. I mean, I think just because of the flexibility back in my old normal days, my schedule allowed me to be able to do that so it didn't conflict. Yeah. Okay. So I haven't faced that. Now, in the beginning, when I was doing a lot of stuff in the basement, yeah, it was a problem because I'd invite people over. They may bring their kids, and then my wife's like, I am not babysitting your kids. So it got, but the way I've been able to kind of arrange things now is I try to do things so it don't interfere with family time. Okay. I don't want to have to catch that one too. That's like a double whammy. If I'm interfering with family time and I'm adding 2 to 3 hours of podcasts and kids and families and drinking and whatever else comes. So I try to balance it out.
Yeah. Look, I know we have to go. I was gonna because I know the answer to this stuff, but it's just funny to ask because I was be like, Gigi, how does your schedule impact your relationships?
I can't stand you.
How does your schedule impact your dating life? How does that work for you?
I don't have a dating life. It's non-existent. So it actually works out pretty good. I'm in the garage studio. When I'm not logged in for work, I'm here 5, 6, 7 hours.
This is unfair. This is not appropriate.
I'm married to the game. You a horrible cheat. I'm married to the game.
There's a lot of people out there right now that's looking at you, Gigi, and they're saying that's her choice.
Hey, You know?
Yeah, I'm telling you now. Like, I guess the most me and my wife don't fight very much at all. The most we've ever fought about in life is schedule. Not necessarily the podcast, but just schedule in general.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a time where I felt like I needed to go out more and quote unquote cover things.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd be like, ha ha hell. You'd be like, let me tell you what you gotta cover tonight. Oh
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, when this Corona thing's over though, it's like I think my wife would be happy for me to get outside. I think
Probably so.
yeah.
I think now I think the new normal in our house has been established. Because I'll be like, you were home for 2 months straight. Ain't nothing fall apart.
This is a setup. Hey,
you keep your ass home up.
This is a setup
I would,
dangerous.
yeah, I would be saying stupid stuff though. I'd be like, yo, I have to go out to this, whatever show it is. Like, I can use radio and AGM as an example because they're just friends of mine. But I could be like, yo, boo boo, honey, I gotta go to this Radio B show. She'd be like, you saw Radio B yesterday. You ain't got you don't have to go to this AGM show. Like, she doesn't understand the importance of certain things. So I laugh. It's funny. But yeah, we fought more about schedule than anything else ever. Like, now she likes the format of like going to the house and doing us doing the podcast on Monday, like the once a week. Like, she's like, oh, once a week we good.
Yeah.
But in the past, when it was like random, I don't know how long sessions, and because those early sessions took forever.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All night.
Oh yeah, but that's funny. But I'm glad your wife's on board, Randy. That's a good step.
That's definitely good.
Moving in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah, better start than us.
We're gonna close here before I hear the foot hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
So we're in a good stage. Look, thank you guys for tuning in. This is episode 34, Randy Wilson podcast with the CheatsMovement podcast. Great collaboration here. Stay tuned. You'll see us soon or later. All right, I'm gonna end it right here. Okay, guys.
All right.
Good night.